the Voice and Accent Hub. It's for voice and accent training specifically for voiceovers, actors, and narrators. So you're more than welcome to come say, what about you?
Hello, David. Hello, Mary, Georgie, Drew, Bernard, everybody. Wow, so many people.
Hi guys. I'm on my mobile, so I can't see who's there.
Oh, that's okay. There's a lot of us here. Tanya.
It's the first time I've Zoomed as well, so be patient
really?
with me. Yeah.
David, congratulations. How do you feel?
Like a Zoom newbie baby virgin type thing.
There's our tongue twister for the day. Newbie baby, newbie baby, newbie baby,
newbie baby.
Newbie baby, newbie baby.
I saw your link, and sorry, what's your first name? Is it Leonie?
Yes. Hi.
I saw the link, and then David Bates might be floating around in the background listening in. I think he's a bit camera shy, he was telling me. But anyway, I think he's listening. So we're both sort of setting up as voiceover actors as well as acting.
Yes.
So, top of the morning to you and all that.
Okay, brilliant. Good to meet you. Top of the morning to you.
Top of the mornings to you already. That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
I like Mrs. Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, go on, carry on.
She reminds me of my granny, to be honest with you, so I quite like her too.
Brilliant. Right, so I'm just gonna pop you on mute, David, and
okay,
there you go. Everybody else, yep, cool. Yeah, welcome everybody to webinar number 2 of Thursday. If you haven't already, if you could just check in the chat letting us know that you're here. And yeah, I'm just gonna hand over to Nicola straight away. She's going to tell you everything about who she is and what she does, and yeah, we'll have a great hour or so of accent acquisition. So without further ado, Nicola Redman.
Oh, hi, it's me. That felt like those weird moments in the stand-up clubs where there's nobody and you have to introduce yourself. Here she is. Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me. What a great thing to set up, Leonie, to give everybody a little bit of insight and lots of training, because I know during lockdown everyone's eager to keep creative, keep those brains going and not go absolutely ratty. So I've got a bit of stuff planned for 25-30 minutes depending on how much I waffle about approaching accents and some of my top tips and my my little insights for you. So I'll just crack on. I think we'll do, is a Q&A at the end, Leonie? Is that, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we usually...
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Leonie, if you want to keep me a check on time, if you think I'm going too far, just, hurry up. All right, so my name's Nick Redman. I won't bang on too much about who I am. You can do the old Google and find out for yourself, but I'm a voiceover artist and a voice and accent coach, usually based in Manchester, although at the moment I am locked down in Cumbria with my mum and dad because I have a child and I needed their help. So apologies if you can hear sheep in the background because they're very rural. Just so you know, I'm not some random agent who thinks they're good at accents. I am genuinely trained in this kind of work. I'll give you a very, very, very brief CV. I trained in voice and accent pedagogy at Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. I was an actor. I am a voiceover artist and a voice actor. I've been teaching voice, accents, voiceover and text in most of the UK drama schools, on and off. I've got an international one-to-one practice working with lots and lots of different types of voiceovers and voice artists and comedians and professional voice users and speakers with all sorts of voice things. And I'll just turn my emails off in case that keeps pinging. I provide voice and accent support for theatre, TV, radio, all the usual things that us voice and accent people tend to do. I tick the box. And as I just said, I have a group on Facebook, the Voice and Accent Hub, so do come and join us if you fancy it. It's just a lot of voice geekery and a bit of crack, as we would say in Ireland. I wanted this talk to provide some insight on approaching accent breakdown, because it's nice to give you guys some autonomy if you're faced with an accent to sort of get yourself started. And also sort of give my very brief tips for when your agent calls you at 8:30 and, you know, you have to master a Venezuelan accent for an audition in like 25 minutes. Voice actors, you know, call you at like 8 p.m. going, help, the self-tip has to be in tomorrow, happens quite a lot. So hopefully you'll get some tips on that. And I'm also keen to manage expectations when it comes to voice acts that requires lots of commitment. Get the most out of your practice when you get the chance to do it, because, you know, time is money, people. So let's start through the basics. Skim through the basics. I'm sure you're all aware that there are differences in sounds between different accents, you know, the vowels and the consonants. So the first thing that's probably going to pop out for a lot of you is the difference in the vowels, which is the unobstructed sounds, and the consonants, which is the sounds that have obstructions in the way with your articulators, your lips, your teeth, your tongue, your soft palate, etc. For example, you know, one of the main requests you get is for General American or some version thereof, you know, so-called Gen Am. And of course, one of the major differences for most UK regional speakers to US is this idea of what's happening with the R sound, the R, the letter R. So as soon as you hear American, most people go, oh, there's something going on with the R sound. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about with the sounds. And I do ping out what sounds feel different to me. And then we can come back to why and how later. One of the things that can really help with the sound changes and is important to notice as well is the idea of the shape of the accent. So the shape through which the sound is traveling. Different practitioners call this different things. So Knight Thompson speech work, which I'm a big fan of, they call this oral posture. They're American, and it's a kind of fancy-pantsy term for the shape of the sound. That's a great book for getting to know your articulator. Whereas this book, which some of you are probably familiar with, and we can put these in the comments, is How to Do Accents. They call it the setting. So the setting of the articulators. I'm not on a kickback, by the way. They're just the two books that I take a lot, have been trained by and use a lot. So the shape through which the sound travels is really important. What's going on with the movable articulators, the lips, the tongue, the soft palate, the jaw, the lower jaw. What can you feel happening with those? Another thing that needs your attention is the tune of the accent, the musicality of it. And depending on whether you're a musical person or not, this may be more apparent to you or more obvious than other people. But things like, how does the accent stress the important words? Do they use volume or do they use pitch range? So, you know, RP, for example, sort of uses pitch to stress. So if they're saying, I'm having a lovely day, you get those changes of pitch for the important syllables in that phrase. Whereas General American, again, I'll use that one because it's very popular. They tend to stress with volume or weight of syllables. So I'm having a lovely day, as opposed to I'm having a lovely day. So that difference in tune is a really good one to think about. The other thing about tune is, how do these phrases resolve? So, you know, does it go up at the end or does it go down at the end? And I'll use two very close to my heart to demonstrate this one. Northern Irish, which is me, if you hadn't guessed already. We tend to go up at the end of our sentences as if we're always asking a question, which for a lot of people is a little bit off-putting. So we go up at the end. But if you're going somewhere in the south of Ireland, you tend to go down at the end. So if you're in Dublin, for example, just sort of generic sort of Dublin, you get that feeling of everything going up and then ending down. So it's, I'm having a lovely day, as opposed to, I'm having a lovely day. So thinking about how that resolves is really key. Specifically with Northern and Southern Irish, not that I have a bugbear on it, but specifically those, because I coach them a lot. So those are some key differences in terms of the tune. The other thing is use of pitch. You know, is it a really wide pitch range? Is it a small pitch range? Also important to consider. Next thing is the energy of the accent. So how it feels. We all live in sort of a default energetic state. Like I'm quite kind of, if we use Laban 8 basic efforts terminology here, I'm quite sort of dabby, you know, anything sort of light and a bit kind of precise and I kind of dab along and kind of energetic. Whereas if I was to use Southern Irish again as an example, you get much more of a sort of glidey feel. So there's a very big difference in the energy of the sound there. And that's not to say that I dab all the time, because that would be intense and people probably wouldn't want to be my friend. But, you know, my default is that dabby sort of place. Quite light. So Laban efforts is a really nice one to think about if you have any experience in that. And then the other thing is the sort of tonal quality or the resonance quality of the accent. This is a controversial one. Some people think it helps them and some don't. That was terrible grammar. Some don't think it helps them. But it's really about where you feel the accent is placed within the vocal tract. And what I mean by vocal tract is the air of the vocal folds to where sound leaves the body. So the nose or the mouth. Now, again, these ladies, my internet looks a bit shonky, by the way, so I'm sorry if I'm freezing. Call it the zone, which is quite a cool thing. But it really changes the tonal quality overall of the accent. So let's use mine as an example, because I'm currently yakking at you, but but that's because my accent is sort of in the back of the pharynx with a wee bit of spill up into the nose. So I do get quite a bit of nasal resonance going on rather than all the sound coming through the mouth. So a bit of my sound is escaping through my nose. Whereas if I was going to something, let's go for something generic Scotland, I'd want to sort of move the quality down into sort of the top of the pharynx, just above the larynx in the laryngopharyngeal area, to give it something slightly hootier or softer. And of course, if I was going for something standard English, I'd want to sort of think about it being down here at the front of the mouth. So it's more orally resonant. And it sort of feels like the sound is a sort of a ball of energy around my lips. By the way, all the accent samples I'll use in this particular demo are going to be very generic, okay? Because we all know that no two accents are the same, all right? That's not what I sound like. So yeah, the resonant quality. It's quite useful to boil the tonal quality down to a couple of like tangible words for you. So, you know, you might say my accent's twangy or bright. Some might say harsh. You might say that sort of Scottish sound is a softer, or I quite like hooty. So you might just say, yeah, harsh, or there are lots of different adjectives you can use to describe the quality you're hearing. And I find that's quite useful as a pinpoint for, you know, if you're going back and forth from accents for jobs, or if you do animation or audiobooks and you're fucking all over the place with 486 different accents, those little trigger words, oh, this is my hooty one, this is my harsh one, this is my nasal one, can be really beneficial. That was that, but yes. So I've organized my approach, because obviously in a one-to-one practice and any time you're working on accents, every single person you meet is completely different. So as a coach, you have to adapt your teaching method depending on who's in the room. You know, you have to coach who's in front of you. So the best thing I've found is really thinking about for you, whether you're, well, the new research would state we're not just kinesthetic learners or just oral or just visual learners. We're more of a combination, and we maybe favor some. But it's important to think about those three areas. So are you a physical feeling learner? Are you a hearing or an oral learner, or are you a visual learner? And I would argue for accents, you really have to be all three. So let's just run through how I work that out. So hearing it to start with, obviously you have to hear an accent if you're going to learn the accent, right? That's pretty obvious, but you need to listen to it a lot, so much that it's driving you absolutely batty. When I would be breaking down an accent and doing really close transcription and things, I mean, you're rocking back and forth by the end of it, going absolutely insane. So you need to get some good samples, get some free audio software like Audacity or Reaper or whatever, and listen to it. And the great thing about getting some software like that is you can clip little bits that you think really demonstrate the tune you want, and you can listen to them over and over again. You can loop them and you can really feel that. And the funny thing is they sort of become like a song. So if I was to say, I'm going to get a coffee, 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 I'm going to get a coffee. It becomes like a really shit tune. But that's what you need to kind of get the default tune of the accent, so that that can be the thing that you then layer all your different emotional tunes and rhythms and intonations on. So you really have to get to grips with the base level dispassionate information tune. And that's what these softwares for the looping and stuff can be really useful for. You can also pick out the vowels that you're struggling with and like slow them down. So Northern Irish, if I was coaching the mouth here in many other sound inventories for other accents, if I was coaching that and someone was struggling, I could give them a bit of that slowed down. So instead of just mouth, they get mouth. Sure, feel like you've gone absolutely insane, but you can really feel the change in the tongue and what's happening there, and it gives you the chance to really hone in and be specific. Also, it's hilarious because you sound like you're drunk or off your rocker. And after you've listened to this 863 times, you'll be grabbing for any piece of humor that you can. The other element of hearing it, of course, is listening to yourself. So yes, you can come to an accent coach to help you out from the get-go, or you can do a load of work and get them to listen to you just before the audition or just to do some tweaks. But you can listen to yourself as well. We all have recordings on our phone. It's really brilliant. So anytime you practice, or if you're struggling with a sound, do it, listen back and think critically, and listen critically to what you're hearing. And the other thing, which is an important point, which I hear a lot, and I think you need to think about, is when you've got a sample, make sure you're creating sounds based on the unconscious bias that we have, that we think the accent sounds like. So we all go through life and we hear accents and we take in sound and we have these sound influences, and then we have to do it for an audition. And sometimes that unconscious bias colors what we think we're hearing. So a great example is when people want to do Scouse or Liverpool accents, and they come to you going, well, yeah, of course, there's that Chechen, there's that Czech, they all go all the time, it's all, and it's like 85% of people in Liverpool would probably disagree that they make that sound, right? So if you get a sample that doesn't have that sound and you're going Chechen, or you're doing a period that is, 100 years ago or whatever, you need to be really thinking, you need to be hearing what the sample is telling you, and not, making your own fucking thing up. Close listening, incredibly important skill to hone up. So feeling it is the next thing for me. What do the sound changes feel like in your mouth? Because that's where we make them. Once you've isolated a sound change in your sample, see if you can change that to that sound. Really powerful for anchoring, and consistency in accents, to go back and forwards from mine to that, mine to that, mine to that, so that I can really compare what's going on, because that gives you clues into the oral posture or the setting. And that's what you need, again, to anchor the sound for consistency, which is one of the main issues that people have. A lot of people come going, I can do this accent for 3 lines, but then I always end up in India or something, or Wales. A lot of people end up in Wales. Per Wales. So if you can, again, let's use the mouth vowel. If you were a speaker from Manchester and you had mouth is the way you say that vowel. If I was teaching Northern Irish and I had to go mouth, I would be going, I'd getting them to go mouth, 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 mouth. And then they can feel what feels different. You have to keep telling your brain, because your brain will constantly be like, that's not the way we do it. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. When they don't realize there's no tigers anymore. It's just that fear, that your body gets when you change its habitual patterns. So feel it in the mouth. And for me, and this is because I favor kinesthetic learning really, is feel it in the body as well. So get up off your bum and have an old boogie, put your sample on, and just like, what does it feel like? I don't mean do a beautiful, strictly worthy, like solo piece, but just feel like, is it like jerky? Is it fluid and elegant? Does it make you change your posture? What does it feel like to you as an accent? Because the important thing to remember is accents don't exist in a vacuum. There's a great quote in this book. I'll read it out. Accents don't exist in a vacuum. Oh, I just said it. They're made by living, breathing communities subject to the vagaries of history, politics, peer pressure, climate, culture, economics, and more. So you really have to get into the accent, and I'll mention that a little bit in a sec again. So feel it in the body, feel it in the mouth. So that's hearing it, feeling it. Next thing is seeing it, which is crucial for so many reasons. I know it probably seems weird saying, how do you see an accent, Nick? Well, here come the truth bombs. Look at it on a map, okay? It seems really obvious. Get out a map and see where it is. Because you might actually get some clues from where it is positioned on the map as to how it sounds. If you were doing Huddersfield, which is technically West Yorkshire, but it's the very edge of West Yorkshire next to Greater Manchester, then you're going to know that the Huddersfield accent probably has a bit of influence from the Greater Manchester area and less influence from West Yorkshire. You might know Manchester already. You might have done that for something else. That could be really useful. So have a look on a map. Also, it's fun. It makes you feel like you're doing really good work, because you are. I like maps much more than I ever thought I would, especially when you have, crap geography. I was terrible at geography at school, but no, I love maps. Oh, my teacher would be so proud. Next thing is look at yourself in a mirror. I know these days, like, I spend so much time looking at my own face teaching. I'm sick to the back teeth of my face, but I do know a lot more about my tendencies as a speaker, which is actually really useful. So you can see what changes when you try to embody an accent in the body and the face. If it might be a jaw position or a lip position, it might be something in the body. So do you stand up straighter when you do something RP or standard English? Do you relax a bit and widen your stance when you do General American? Maybe your stance changes for the embodiment of a punchy kind of city sound, like something from New York or London, Cockney or something. So look at yourself. Take a good look at yourself in a positive way and see what's happening. And then the third thing in seeing it for me is samples are great. Even better if you can get a video of the sample, because then you can see what's happening with the oral tract, with the posture, with their facial, with their body, and you can again take clues from that as to all of those things we've talked about. You can see in their body what their energy is. You can see in their face what their oral posture is, and that can really help. Okay, so my top 5 tips. Context. I've said it already in that quote. Who are the people? Who is your sample? What is their specific accent influence? How sure can you be that they are a native of that area? Do you need a native? Do you need to search a bit harder? Maybe they grew up in a different, with parents of different accents. Maybe that's influenced their sound, so it's not quite true. So if you can, do some research on the speaker themselves. That's why it's so great to get samples from real people who if you can. What's the area like? What's the music of the area like? The culture, all this stuff helps you understand the area and thus embody it with consistency and authenticity, because it's all very well going, hello, I'm from Scotland, oh, very nice. But if that's based on absolutely nothing apart from Ballamori, then it's not going to be useful, if a little hilarious. One of the frustrating things I'm coming to realize in my accent practice is that no bloody accents are consistent, right? It's really, really annoying. You bloody break them, and you're like, well, where's the pentameter gone? But in this instance, it's, well, where's the aspirated T gone? And that's because communication like changes in so many different environments. But what I would say as a learner of a different accent, particularly for audition scenarios, is that you need to show that you understand the sound changes and you can find consistency in a different sound. So, and then when you get used to it and you're really into the rolling yada yada yada, you can break it and you can. So aim for consistency as much as you possibly can, and that's where a coach can be quite useful to give you the sort of linguistic moments where it feels okay to drop that little H, even though they usually hold their H or whatever, it's them listening and going, actually, I feel like because that's, a thought that you're trying to communicate and you're going a bit faster because the character's whatever, you could maybe collide those consonants, or you could drop that or whatever. So, but I would aim for consistency initially to show that you've done the work, you've listened to it, and you notice what the differences are. And my next tip is about practice. So the research into practice, as many of you may be aware, is that as humans, we can probably only really, really focus for about 40 minutes before our brain goes, no, I want to brew now. So don't push yourself to be like, I'm going to do 2 hours every single day, because after a certain time, your body's not going to impact any of the change. It's just going to get tired. So literally little and often is the best way. 5 minutes 5 times a day is better than 1 solid hour. If you, every time you have a brew, you spend 2 minutes reminding yourself, practicing a vowel, stick another one up in the bog, the toilet. And every time you go to the toilet, have a little practice. That's efficient, isn't it? Instead of scrolling on your phone. I know you all. Because it's me. So little and often is way, way better than setting yourself some silly, unrealistic goal that you're never going to keep up. Build it into your routine already. Take it small stages. And don't try and do too much all at once. Tip 4, find authentic samples. So generally we would recommend 3. So you can find tendencies in that accent and themes. Like I said, all accents are different from person to person, and it's hideously frustrating, but also wonderful because we're all different people. But if you can find a few samples that at least clarify what you were thinking about a certain sound, then that can help you find confidence in that you're headed in the right direction. Also make sure that they're the appropriate age for you or the character, the gender for you or the character, and the era for you or the character. So if you're working on something that you just want in your toolbox as an actor, it can be your age, your gender, your time frame. Happy days. If you're doing something that's a period piece, you need to do a bit more forensic research and try and find stuff from a more appropriate era, or have a read of some books, or ask for advice on finding something, because these things do change. We experience it all the time. People get very upset on Twitter about the fact that sounds change and accents change, and everyone's always trying to conform to a standard, and that's not how that accent sounds, but they change a lot. So you got to keep up to date. And then my other tip is just a few places you can find samples. So forgive me if you've already got a few of these, but there's a website called dialectsarchive.com, which is a massive collection of accented spoken English samples from a guy called Paul Meyer. It has their age, a little bit about them, often transcribed either in phonetics or just in text, what they've said, which is really useful. I love local radio and TV channels as well. We can get anywhere on the internet now. It's fucking great. So if you've got to find, I don't know, a Cornish accent, then bloody have a look at like Cornwall FM or Cornwall Community Radio or something. You're bound to find something local, or at least get a few leads. Got to be a bit of a detective. My other favorite is sports interviews. particularly in Ireland, because I don't know if you know, but there's this thing called Gaelic football, which is like an Irish version of football, which is like normal football and rugby had a baby and then got drunk and then hated each other and played the game really fast for 80 minutes. But you can't, if you play that, because it's county to county, you have to be from that county to play for that team. So if you want to play for Monaghan, you have to be from Monaghan, etc., etc. So if you need any Irish accents, if you look for interviews with Gaelic players, it's really, really useful. And also the post-match interviews with fans. Oh my days, a wealth of delightfully honest and authentic and drunk people talking very passionately about the place they're from or the team. So you do get some really authentic stuff coming over there. Maybe the only thing sports are useful for. Ooh, jokes. I don't really watch any football. Okay, local tourist boards, also really great. Call them up, have a little chat. Often you have, you know, Dave from down the road manning the phones that day for the local tourist place, and they'll be bored as hell, and they'd love to have a wee chat about where they're from. So just call people up and say, listen, this is what I'm doing. Social media call outs, pretty classic these days. We know everybody who has everybody and links to everybody. Get in your car when we're allowed and go there for the day, get a feel for the place, tax deductible day at the seaside, lovely. And then there's a few apps as well. So there's the Accent Kit, which is a good one. The Real Accent app, also good. Bit more expensive, but you get a collection of accents instead of just one at a time. And they're quite forensic in their breakdown and their information. And then the Voice Cafe, quite a good one as well. And finally, if you're approaching accents long term, just for a toolkit thing, little and often practice with or without a coach. You know, a coach can dip in and out, help you tweak, help you with consistency, just be an outside ear. Deliberate practice, which is basically means when you're doing it, you have to do it and not just go through the motions. So you have to be quite, mindful is quite a buzzword, but be really mindful about what you're doing. Otherwise it's not going to help. And the recording yourself and listening is powerful. And I always say record yourself at the start so that you can see where you've come from. It's quite nice. I love it when clients sort of come to me and they go, oh my God, I listened back to our first session and I was shit. And now I'm less shit. That's always nice, to know that you're helping as well. But yeah, it's quite good for you. It's good for confidence. And if you're approached, if you've got a last minute thing to deal with, firstly, don't panic. I like to think that casting directors appreciate that a lot of this stuff is last minute. I mean, if you've got, I can do every accent on your CV, then you've only yourself to blame, all right? So do be honest about it. I told my accent, and now I've got to do this accent for an audition. So pick 3 of the most distinctive features and work on finding consistency in those. So but don't try and do it all, because you don't want to you can show that you can really pick up the most distinctive changes for you, because it'll be different for everyone. Then I think that's all these casting directors and people can ask, really. There's always going to be somebody who can just do accents. Ugh, idiot. But, do your best. Just take those little bits, blend it in, and just focus on doing the good acting. Right. I'm done. That's me. I'm done. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Nicola. That's been super helpful already. I'm sure there's going to be loads of questions. I was going to ask about the it's this website. It's like a database of accents as well. It's like Idea or something.
That's dialectsarchive.com.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. Just the URL is not Idea. It's the International Dialects of English Archive.
Right.
Dialects.com. Yeah. Or dialectsarchive.com, I think I said, didn't I? But yeah, if you Google Idea or Dialects Archive, you'll get to it. Or Paul Meyer, Meier. Meyer. Oh yes, someone's asked about the books. So the books were, let me Should I just hold them up and you can do some kind of screenshot? I think Janet Edda's book is out of stock, and I have told them, but I've been telling everybody to buy it because it's sort of the only theory book for breaking down accents that there is at the moment. You might be able to get it from somewhere. Might be worth looking for a secondhand copy. But yeah, it's sort of out of stock. Tell me when I can stop doing this.
I think you're good.
Great. Yay, Jimmy's got it already there. Yeah. So good. It's just like it's basically like a curriculum for accent work. Breaks it down really simply. And it's nice and funny because they're nice ladies up as well. So shall I have a look at the questions? Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I don't know if there were any questions in the chat yet, but do people have questions who want to just ask them? Oh yeah, Philip, of course.
Oh, so many questions, but I suppose we'll stick to dialects for this session.
Yeah. We've already done bananas.
Exactly. So when it comes to American accents, I'm just kind of curious about your experience working with actors and whether or not you felt that casting directors are happy for British actors with a decent specific accent to take them in and audition them. Have you found that with you tutoring actors in those accents that it's something you find yourself very busy with because there's a lot of work out there and casting directors want specific American accents?
Yeah, so good question, Philip. So yeah, things get quite busy around pilot season. A lot of British actors preparing things for the States. What I also get, and sometimes this is because they're high profile actors and they want them in the show, whether their accent, at the stage of audition, they're like, I'm willing to accept that you'll do the work on the accent. We'd like you in the show. Can you go do some work on the accent, please? But sometimes that's because they're very experienced or they're a name, you know what I mean? So you get a lot of people doing so-called general American or sounding like they're from America somewhere for self-tapes for pilot season. You also get a lot of people coming once they've been cast, or they'll get a callback on the proviso that they'll improve their accent. So we'll see you again, but we want to see your accent improve. So that happens quite a lot as well. I think there's a lot of weight in the British training history, you know, in the UK over there. They love a good Brit actor. They don't know what British means, but they do like a Brit actor because, you know, our theatre tradition is, you know, world renowned. She says, getting very sad about the state of it at the moment. So they're willing, absolutely, and they do get a lot of British actors through the door. And yeah, you end up coaching Jen Am a lot. It depends though, because some people, you know, it's not the right one for the cast type. For some people, it's more of a New York sound. Some people, it's like a Southern sound. Some people, it's like West Coast kind of sound. But, you know, Jen Am in itself is on a spectrum. And most American voice coaches think the term is hilarious. That's why they call it so-called. It's like our version of like RP. Like, what is RP now anyway? You know? Like, it goes from here, as in terribly, terribly, darling, to estuary at the other end. Like, it's...
And just very briefly, would you recommend that actors go in to an audition effectively, say, for example, with an American accent if they're applying for an American role? Or as you were saying earlier, should they just be upfront about it rather than pretending that perhaps they might be American anyhow?
I've heard both stories. So I think that's a decision you have to make as an artist. I suppose if they know you're British and you walk in with an American accent, I would reference it. You know, you have to do what gets you there for your process, right? And I don't think anybody would say, don't be a prick, like, what's your real accent? They'd just let you do what you need to do to get the most out of your audition. But I have heard of people going, they didn't know who I am, so I just walked in America.
Breaking up a little bit there. Actually.
I think that only works if you're nailing the accent. Like if you go in and you're like, "Hey y'all, here I am from New York City." They're not. I think you probably have to be nailing the accent if you're going to do that. Did you hear me? Does
Yep,
my
got
intro
you.
hear
Yep.
me? Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the key there is you need to be good at the accent.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to look like an idiot. Like if someone came in to, and if I was auditioning for something and they were supposed to be doing Southern Irish and they come in going, well, what about you? I'm from Dublin. I'd be like, we'll call you. Because there is a confidence that comes with walking into an audition room doing that, right? That's you going, I'm going to fool these feckers. So I think, yeah, tread lightly. I've heard it working, and I've also heard, that you don't need to.
That story. Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Hello. Yeah, I just popped into my head actually, just out of nowhere. I think because of what you were saying then, have you ever worked with anyone when you thought you really cannot do accents, you just need to give it up?
I think time frame plays a big part in this, and commitment to practice. So I reckon with enough time and enough effort, you could get anybody there. But it's a two-sided thing. So there are people who are open to learning and change, and there are people who aren't, is another thing. There are people who come to you sometimes as if they're just showing off they can already do the accent. It's really weird. And then they get really upset when you tell them they can't and they never come again. So I think the short answer, I think, yeah. I wouldn't take anybody on if I didn't think I could get them there. That's not fair. But there are parameters. So like, if you're coming to me for an audition tomorrow or a self-tape that has to be in 2 days, and you need to go from sounding like you're from Chorley to sounding like you're from Orkney, and you've never done an accent before in your life, it's my job to manage those expectations and say, listen, unless something happens here that is quite remarkable, this isn't going to happen. But we can work on this sound and this sound and this sound, and see how you feel about it. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. I mean, I think I'm good at accents, so I would be one of those annoying people who come in and say I'm really good at accents, and then you would spend lots of time telling me all the things that I'm not quite doing right. But I think that's kind of important.
Yeah.
Do you find that people have just one or two that they're really good at, and then others they might sort of struggle with? Because I think that's for a few of us, done a few.
There's a lot to be said for exposure to accents and how powerful that is. So the ones that we hear all the time, a lot of people have a version of that when they come. Most of us have a version of American. Some people veer to the South, some people veer to New York, some people veer to the West Coast, but they can get themselves there and do some kind of version of, and then you can start from that and tweak. Same with standard English. A lot of people have a version of something, even if it sounds a bit stereotypical and goes a bit upstairs Downton Abbey. Oh fuck, I've forgotten the first bit of the question. I'm so sorry.
I think it was about that. I can't remember it either.
The other thing, but I would just say, like, in terms of managing expectations, because, it's very easy to say, yeah, I can get anybody to do any accent because I'm brilliant. The effort is on your side, as the actor. Like, I've had people come to me and they're like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. And they come back and you're like, well, I've not had time to practice. And it's like, well, you just have to do that all again then. And it's just a waste of your money. So that's why I'm really adamant about understanding the little and often practice and setting yourself realistic goals, because the worst psychological kind of mindset is I'm going to work really hard and do like 2 hours a day on my accent, because you're not going to do it, and then you get disappointed and you won't want to start it because 2 hours is ages to do anything. I can't even watch a film for 2 hours, so just set yourself little realistic goals and be honest with yourself about the time you've got to commit to it. But you have to do the work. I used to be really soft about this when I first started coaching. I was like, well, I appreciate you don't have time, and I understand that life's really hard and I'm terribly sorry. And now it's like, you're giving me your money and I will help you, but you have to do the work. There's nothing we can do about it. And people come to you in different ways. So some people will come like, Nick, I'm shit at practice. I'm going to come twice a week until this project starts. That's usually people for big budget stuff or whatever. And, they've got a bit of cash from a previous project or whatever. Or some people are like, this is a project for my toolkit. I'll come once every couple of weeks. I'm really good at practicing. Give me 4 or 5 features and I'll work hard and blah, 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 blah. So, there's different approaches for everybody. But the underlying thing is there's no point booking a coach if you're not gonna do it. And I'll take your money. I'll take it. Mary.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm finding that casting directors are getting more and more specific about accents and placing them in more specific places, and also really looking for somebody who genuinely has a history of living in that place or comes from that place. Because I'm seeing that in breakdowns now, I think, and that makes it hard for us then to think, well, what accents should I take up, and which one should I just think, well, actually they're going to get somebody who's already Scottish or
Native.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a funny one, because on the one hand I think that's brilliant. Like, specificity really helps as an accent coach. If they come and they go Sheffield, you're like, great. If they come and go Yorkshire, you're like, well, step one, which Yorkshire? There's 4. So from an accent coach point of view, I like the specificity, and I also like the inclusivity of understanding now that there is life outside a standard spoken English. But I think there's always a way of looking into your heritage or your cast type and choosing the accent that you study based on that. So I'm sure we've all been in situations, well, I don't know, I used to get told I looked French quite a bit when I had like really short dark hair. So maybe I would look for something that's French or something more European. There is English, and my mom's from Lancashire, so that accent is in my heritage, so I could look to learn that one. And I think also from an industry-wide perspective, there's always, yes, they're getting specific, but if you can choose something that covers the basic regions, so something northern. That's not to say you're learning a general northern accent. You can choose Sheffield, you can choose Manchester, you can choose bloody Bolton, whatever. You have something northern, then that's going to fit you in a certain place. And also, there are certain things that all northern accents share. So if you've learnt one, then tweaking Bolton to Manchester is an easier job, than starting afresh. So I would say you'd be doing yourself a favour if you get something Welsh, something Scottish, something Northern, something Midlands, something from that pointy bit on the corner.
West Country, maybe.
West Country, yeah, down there. Yeah, and that's a lot. Maybe you don't want to do that many, but yourself the breakdowns are coming in as well. So if you think there's more coming in for Northern stuff, then prioritise Northern.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be put off by the fact that the breakdown is specific. If they're asking for, what I find, I'm forgetting, forgive me if I'm wrong or correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not in these casting. I don't get breakdowns a lot. I get the actors been told what they're going to be, what they need to be. But I find that the specificity tends to be for the accents that are, I don't even want to say this because they're all distinctive, but really distinctive, like the Northeast or Liverpool. So if they want something northern, they might say northern, but if they want Scouse, they'll say Scouse, or they'll say Northeast, Newcastle. Because if you say northern, but what you want is Newcastle, you're going to get a load of people going, I love you, all right. You're not going to get people going, why, I pet. So I think there's trends in what's casting and trends in what accents are needed and popular and in vogue. So I think it's probably pays to be abreast of all the things you're seeing generally in terms of a theme. Oh, and also like when musicals kind of are recasting, you tend to get certain things coming up. So when Billy Elliot used to recast, you'd get quite a lot of Northeast things, or when Kinky Boots was recasting, you'd get a lot of people for, Northampton. So it's about understanding the industry as well and that sort of thing. But I appreciate, Jesus, sometimes you feel like plucking at anything, plucking at straws. Where to start,
I know. I got a self tape to do for a Texan accent, but it was going to be filmed in Romania, and that's a bit of a whoa. Just
Well, the thing is as well, particularly for theatre, sometimes as a coach you have to think about various things. You have to think about the budget they've got to pay for you, how many sessions you're going to get, where the production's on in terms of the specificity that you need to find. So for example, I coached a show. They had time to get me in for half a day, which was up to 4 hours. They wanted me to see 6 actors, and they wanted me to coach Russian, General American, Canadian, Ghanaian, which is its own problems. Beijing also has its own problems, and something really random like Liverpool, in 4 hours with 6 people. And the show was going on in Coventry, and only Coventry. So I had to make a decision as a coach to say, right. And this was mainly with the ethnic minority members of the cast. So the girl doing Beijing and the girl doing Ghanaian, they felt really uncomfortable because it wasn't their natural accent. It was the accent of their parents and their heritage, but it wasn't their natural accent. And here I come, some white girl like from Ireland, coming in to teach them how to sound like their parents. And they were like, well, they both said that they felt like they were doing horrific, over the top piss take impressions when they did the accent. And I was like, I understand why you're feeling that. These are my little tips for how to make what you're doing now sound more authentic and help you find comfort in that. But also, the show is happening in Coventry. So do you think anybody looking at you as a physically Ghanaian or a physically Beijing person are going to believe anything other than you being from those places? So there's a managing expectations element to it as well, you know. I'm not sure why I went to that story. I hope it was useful.
I think it's the context of where you're delivering the accent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And who the audience is. So
yeah, exactly. If you're doing Texan to a load of Romanians,
yeah. I didn't get the job, but you know, hey, whatever.
But you know, I think you can take you have to take certain liberties within time and budget restraints and that sort of thing, depending on the context.
Yeah.
And that's a coach's decision, I suppose, if you have the luxury of one. If not, explain. That's also a good reason to be really, you know, open with the coach that you're working with. You know, tell them all the things you know about the project, and they'll be able to work the best that they can to get you to a place that is, you know, the best for that. All of us accent coaches, you know, dream of the job where you are with one lovely person for the entire filming. You know, you just with one gorgeous person who demands that you be with them all the time, and you just tweak everything, and it's so specific and it's so beautiful and it's so wonderful. But those jobs don't come across that much, you know, for most of us. You often end up doing, you know, a lot of different things. So yeah, it's context, isn't it? I think is the takeaway there. I'll stop talking about that one now.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm on a ramble.
All right. Do we have any more questions from anyone? Yeah, Drew?
You sort of touched on it in that story about Coventry. It's just how do you make the accent feel like it's you? Obviously, it's not your accent, and you may have researched it very well, and you can do a great accent, but you still feel as the actor that it's not really you, so it's inauthentic. Is that just comes with practice and, hey, look, I can do a great accent, that's great, and leave it at that? That's
a good question. It comes up a lot because it's making that step, isn't it, and blending those two together. It's that kind of, are you wearing the accent or is the accent wearing you kind of thing? I think it's a combination of things. So one is, yes, practice. I think using the physicality of the accent to find physical anchoring to make it feel physically comfortable for you is a huge thing. So that's where the oral posture and the energy comes in. Understanding the culture and everything, but in relation to the character you're playing. So if you're doing an accent for a character, it's because that's where that character speaks, right? So you have to do your research into the accent as the character. Do you know what I mean? To sort of own it. You have to, why do they speak like that? Where did their parents come from? How did they feel about their accent? What does their accent mean to them? You know, you've got to sort of do that kind of work as well, I think, in terms of embodying it and making it feel comfortable. The truth about making it feel physically comfortable is just you got to do it a lot. Like I used to work at LIPA, and one of the teachers there did one project which he required the students to, from the start to the end of that project, 6 weeks or whatever, and they were in other classes. It was just a class project. He insisted that they speak in the accent all the time, in other classes, at dinner, at home. He insisted on it. A lot of people thought that was a bit unnecessary, like in movement class or whatever, in voice class, kind of throws up its own problems. But the actors who did it, or did it as much as they could, were the ones who found that authenticity and that comfort with the sound. I have this one client who, and often people say versions of this, but I just love the way he said it. He was like, you know what I need to do, Nick? I need to take this accent out for a coffee. And his marker was, if I can go out into the world and interact with some strangers, have a coffee, have some dinner, order something, buy something, get on the bus, and feel comfort in that accent, then that's a pretty good marker for how he feels about it. Hey, Jesus, I'd be terrified. Like, and I'm pretty good at accents, but if I had to like go into McDonald's and be like, can I have 6 chicken McNuggets or whatever, I'd be like absolutely petrified. That's a big step, you know. So I think it might be an interesting barrier to use, you know, if you can go out and kind of role play.
Thank you.
Yourself. I hope that helped. It's one of those holy grail sort of questions, Drew. You know, how do you find real comfort? And the boring answer is practice. But also questioning and, you know, analyzing and investigating, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Nick. Any more questions?
Dave.
Oh, yes, Dave. I'm just going to unmute you. I think you need to let me unmute you. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, right. Been excellent so far. This is very interesting. Maybe slightly off tangent. Voiceover, accent. Now I've just been setting up a new studio and getting into it as along the normal acting side of things. You know, when they say to you, like on Star now, or if you go on something like Fiverr to advertise your voiceover capabilities, is it best to just have samples of your accents, or samples of your accents with some video of yourself, excuse me, portraying those accents?
Right. There's a couple of things here. Yeah. There's a couple of things.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. First thing about voiceover is you're going to work most in your own accent, end of, right? So your main demos, your commercial demo, your corporate demo, your in-store demo, your IVR demo, all that stuff needs to be in your own accent first and foremost. Even your character demo for gaming and animation these days, they're not interested in loads of, look at all the voices I can do, or this kind of shit. They just want to hear how good an actor you are and versions on a theme of you. That's kind of it. So don't worry too much about accents when you're first getting started, because your only USP in the ridiculously oversaturated voiceover market at the moment is you, right? You, and what you can bring, the problem you can solve for whoever your, you know, ideal client is. You don't generally need video demos, like nobody cares because it's voiceover. Some people put fun little gaming demos together with characters and stuff, but it's an expense that you don't need at the start. If you're a home studio demo, you need a really killer demo in the areas you want to work in. So really specific, whether that's commercial, corporate, e-learning, IVR, etc. And you need an online presence, and you need to stay off Fiverr. Good night. But this isn't a voice of possession. So.
Yeah.
I feel very passionately about pay
you've just led into another. You've just led into another question then. Why stay off Fiverr? Because I've seen people compare Fiverr with Upwork and a few other places, and yet they've said Fiverr seems to be the best one to go for as a beginner.
Do you want, as a voiceover, for your brand to be represented by the fact that it costs £5 to hire you? Is that what you want from your brand? That's the question I have to ask you. All of the pay-to-play sites favor the client over the voice. End of. Some of them incredibly I'm sorry, I get very passionate about this, Leonie. You can cut me off if you need to. All of them favor the client over the voice. They do not value the voice. There is no reason at all that you need to be on any pay-to-play site at the moment to build a voiceover business. You need a killer demo that is on trend, shows the best of you. You need a website. You need some hot social media. You need to get on the fucking phone. Start locally. Call people, tell them you exist, do stuff for them. Move a bit bigger, move a bit bigger, move a bit bigger. But there is no need, and this is my line now, I'm not being soft about it anymore, Leonie, I can't be bothered, do you know what I mean? Because you're a voiceover, right? I can't be bothered with it. I've been doing it for many years, and I did the pay to play, and I understand it's experience, blah, blah, blah. There are better ways to get experience. Do student stuff, do stuff for mates, whatever. Or if you do go on pay to play and you want to spend your entire day auditioning for stuff against hundreds of thousands of other people, just that, actually, no, even I was just saying that, I didn't believe it. Don't fucking do it. Like, it's a waste of time. Spend 2 hours on the phone calling local video production companies to say, hi, this is me. I'm just down the road, actually. Listen, when this shit's over, do you want to get a coffee? Because here's what I can do for you. Make relationships. You don't need loads of clients. You need good ones that come back to you and pay you right.
Amen.
I've got all up here then.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I'm actually, Dave, I'm doing another webinar next Monday at 11 about how to find work as a voiceover artist that is not through an agent. So come and have a look at that. But look at this round of applause you're getting there, Nicola. Everybody's agreeing with you.
Sorry, Leonie, I didn't mean to crash on your
No, you're good. It's brilliant. I mean, any input is always appreciated, and you know what you're talking about, so it's great.
So,
and yeah,
Nicola,
I mean, it's just after 2 now, so unless
Nicola?
there is
Sorry. Yes. That was somebody said my
Nicola,
name.
just before you go.
Yeah.
Just before you go, Nicola.
Yeah.
Can you send us an invite to that webinar then?
Oh, that's my webinar. I'll put it on the group when I put the ones for next week up.
And somebody's asked, my group is called the Voice and Accent Hub, HUB. Voice and Accent Hub. And we have a lot of fun in there, so come say hi.
I've also linked that in the event to this, so just click on it. But yeah, thank you so much, Nicola. This has been fantastic.
Thank you. What a nice time.
Round of applause. As usual, everybody, pay what you can to Daniel's account and it will be forwarded on. And tomorrow I'm going to stop this recording now.